Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday, the 8th of December in 2023, and I'm hosting today. So I'm just going to start with a passage that is out of what's called The Web That Has No Weaver. This is something that I came across while I was doing my second degree in complementary therapies at Derby University. And there's someone called Lao Tzu that's an ascended master. And the passage I'm going to read for you today, just think about life and how we respond in life. And I would say, ideally not react, we want to respond. So Lao Tzu alludes to this concept when he says, "He who stands on tiptoe is not steady. He who strides forward does not go. He who shows himself is not luminous. He who justifies himself is not prominent. He who boasts of himself is not given credit. He who brags does not endure for long." When you think about how things happen in life, and it's talking about the different elements in life and how if you stand on tiptoe and if you're not balanced, then you're not balanced, are you? If we think we're going to step forwards, but we're in fear, then we're not stepping forwards. So we need to be in the now of this moment and watch for the inspirations that we get in each moment that are there, but it's beyond the ego mind. Okay, so that's where we are today, and we are here now in this meeting. Anything else that's happening in our life, we've just put on hold because we need to focus on now. We don't need to focus on what the mainstream approach is, but also through that, when I say don't think of a blue monkey, doesn't need you need to bring that blue monkey to you. So we are here as the Love Party movement, liberation, opportunity, vitality, empowerment. And we're here to help people to realise that the way we can be and have in our daily lives, literally daily lives from moment to moment, can be much more healthier, happier, and with a sense of well-being. And that's where we are today. Okay. So I know hopefully Roger's going to be joining us because we've got some discussion that he's already asked us to have. But at the moment, I'm just going to go around the different people that are in this meeting for anything that you would like to say to contribute to this hour of us being together. Okay, I'm going to start with Rachel. So Rachel, is there anything you'd like to say, just because you're top left on my screen? So, yeah.
Okay, I know before we started recording, Lynn suggested having a discussion about the mayor role, which is obviously something which is very much in my horizon for 2024. I am interested in, I've been thinking a lot about what Roger raised, which hopefully he'll talk through when he joins. So those are the two key things uppermost on my mind. I did actually write an open letter to Michael Gove MP as well this week, which was to me felt like a powerful kind of policy possibility, both for us but also to drive through for the mainstream.
Right, and could you tell us a little bit more about what you put in that letter, because I haven't seen it?
Oh, okay. Well, I did a video today and I posted it, and I actually read it on video and I explained a bit more today, but it was basically a letter of complaint about the planning authority, the local, this Peak District local planning authority, and its absolute suppression of anything visionary and enterprising and community-based and affordable housing-based, that has, to the extent it has turned the Peak District into a museum. So it was me complaining in the strongest terms to Michael Gove, who is the Secretary of State for up-leveling housing and communities I think they call it up leveling. Leveling up, that's right, leveling up housing and communities. And what is going on locally is completely diametrically opposed to that. And I believe that the local planning department is corrupt, and I put this in the letter. So anyway, I felt very strongly about it. So
right, well, that's very synchronistic, because the local park that I've managed to save by setting up the Facebook group in 2018 to stop it from being built on and things, I've just put myself forwards to say something at the planning meeting. But as we know, planning stuff only came in the 1930s, and actually, who is it there for? It's, as I've said on something today, it doesn't seem to be there for the people.
yeah,
and this is what, you know, we're all sort of standing up for, and that's why it's important that we get someone putting themselves forwards for every single mayor position of these regional mayors that are a new post that's being developed. We're already sorted enough for East Midlands, which is where I am myself and Lynn and Rachel.
Alan, actually. Alan, you're still in East Midlands, aren't you?
I am, but what I want to say is I'm moving down to Sussex in the next few weeks.
Well, that could be very good for us, Alan.
Well, everything's for a reason, isn't it?
And what we need is hopefully at least one person to put themselves on that ballot paper, each of the regional mayors. So it's a new position that's happening throughout the United Kingdom, as far as I know. I don't think it's just England. And if we can be on each of those ballot papers, or as many possibilities as we can, and that's what we need to do. So thank you, Rachel, for that. And I'm now going to go to Alan, because he's next on my screen. So well, Alan, anything that you'd like to say or share for today's meeting?
2 points. One, which I've already made, that assuming things go to plan, I'm going to be living in Sussex. I'm pretty confident anyway, before the next general election. And the second point is, forgive me because I might not be here for the whole hour, but I'm listening, and it's energies, of course.
Yeah, you are completely forgiven, and it is lovely that you've joined us. And we need, even if people can only literally join for 5 minutes or less, at least, you know, we know that they're joining us, and they could give a little bit of input, which if people tell us they haven't got long, then, you know, we'll sort of prioritise them to input. So thank you very much, Alan. And if there's anything else you need to say before you go, just put your either physical hand up or your whatever hand.
Well, shall I just add, seeing as you're given the opportunity now, thank you. I've shared with Julie. I don't think I've shared with anybody else yet. At least one organisation that I've been a member of for a while, but I hadn't realised their significance until recently. So that is ca-britishisles.com, and they have a very strong presence on the south coast. And so Julie has. Sorry.
What's it stand for? Is it community? Is it community assembly or?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah, so you might have come across it, and it's global as well. And they are.
Carrie's well into it. You know, Carrie from down Devon. Cornwall.
Yes, she probably would have done, but I'm not surprised to hear that. So anyway, I'm just adding that, and it's all part of the inevitability, to my mind, of all of this, that we are the flow. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is where ideally we're going to get all these different organisations coming together in the different communities and working together to share ideas. They might not be in each community, but we can support each other in the different communities in things that we learn about, and to be able to help each one in their own individual, because every community is completely different. And so the more we can help each other, and you can sort of let people know what's happening, and then they go, oh, right, okay, well, that's not happening with me, but now I know that, it'll be helpful in other ways. So thank you for that, Alan. Okay, now, Lynn, anything that you'd like to share or say to us?
Yeah, okay. So I was a little bit interested because I think I'm sort of getting an idea of how the universe is, or I think I slightly saw the universe at work a bit, because a lot of the time it's a big mystery to me. It's like, what were you thinking? But yeah, so for the first one is something that's cropped up with this flipping cop out conference that they've got going soon or whatever, and the chairman apparently has basically said there is no evidence that about fossil fuels. This is right from the heart of Weffiland. We have somebody admitting that this is a big pile of bollocks, basically, which is quite interesting.
He's a sheikh, though.
Yes, that's right. Yes, an oil dude. So but it's quite interesting because that's you have to stick your neck out a bit to say that, even as a sheikh. I mean, he can sort of profit from everything still without actually putting his opinion out there. And the second thing was just a journey back from London. We had quite a nice day out watching a Royal Ballet rehearsal, and came back up on the train, and our party got split up. So I was sat with Verity, and two lovely blokes came and sat opposite at a table. One of them just sat down and was so easy straight away, just very friendly, sat down, was like, oh, made it. So what have you been up to today? And it was straight into like we'd known us forever, and like we'd arranged to sit together, really, played cards and all the rest of it. And the conversation went on and flowed and everything. But it was really interesting that as soon as we approached anything that was slightly edgy, that slightly urged on the away, it was like it was stopped. Not by them. They were completely oblivious to it. But I even just mentioning that Croatia was now expensive since having to adopt the euro. What they heard was it's a bit expensive now, and the bit about adopting the euro was crashed by the people with the sandwiches coming round, and that's interesting that they just completely, they missed that bit, and then the conversation moved to something else. And this happened it happened again. So I started testing, just putting tiny, pushing the boundaries just a tiny bit. And every time something happened, and the last time when I was really close to actually coming out with something a little bit on the edgy side, I suddenly went, oh, where are we? And they went, Grantham. I was like, and had to run. And it was like the universe was like, no, this far and no further, And what these guys were into AI, and they used it for their business, and they were training young people, putting systems in place. So I was just thinking, this is really interesting that the universe is not letting them hear anything about. It's like the people who never see trails when they look up at the sky. It's quite interesting. They always look up and it's cloudy, or they always look up and it's clear. But I was like, these guys are putting systems in place that are really important for the future, really sort of on the cutting edge of things, and they're training people to do it. And my thinking is that these are systems that we're going to be able to use, and they could be really beneficial. They could also be absolutely incredibly evil. And if they knew or had an inkling that was how they were going to be used, or that they were already being used for malign effect, they wouldn't be able to put the system in place that we are going to use. And it's like they're being protected so they can get the systems in place, and without having the worry, because if they were trying to do this knowing what they know, they would just be completely unable to. Like the guy at Google, who when they put all those machines, they put like hundreds of machines all doing the same task with a deliberate mistake, and nothing happened really until 6 months. One of them corrected, and then within 2 weeks they'd all corrected, and they'd sort of done this from a spontaneously, if you like, in a thinking way, which scared him. So people who are exposed to that's the possibility of what's going on wouldn't be able to put the new systems in my opinion. I just thought it was really interesting how the universe was behaving, and I was sort of testing it as well, and it was like, yeah, you're not going any further. It's there. That's it.
So on that
really interesting
sort of front, did you have any discussion with them about the benefits of artificial intelligence?
I did, yes, and that was completely allowed. That was we discussed that. They told me how to use ChatGPT, and they were telling me all the things it was doing, what articles they were writing, how they needed to modify them sometimes because they were recognizably AI, so they needed to be a little bit personalized. It wasn't quite there yet with, personalization. But I've heard from about AI before, and partly via the Google guy, that it's not entirely of this world. Stuff that it's bringing in is sometimes AI is actually bringing in stuff that's not entirely human at origin,
And what we need to
stuff
do,
appearing on there that's not entirely of our making.
yeah, but we know that even us living is beyond anything that human really understand. So if we can be in that place that we're bringing it in with love, with liberation, opportunity, vitality, empowerment, then we don't need to be in fear of it. Because I know when they talk about nobody will own anything and you'll be happy, but that means that we won't be owned as well. And so once we can go with that and realize that everybody is going to be able to get the basics for life and to actually live with a sense of health and well-being, and we can use technology in positive ways, which, like today, us meeting up on Zoom today, without the artificial intelligence stuff, we couldn't do this. Now, I've been around so long that I was sort of early days of computers getting into workplaces, and they weren't even in schools then. And I know when they were first into schools, they had this big thing that you must not switch off the computer, blah, blah, blah. And you'd even have signs up in schools saying, do not switch off the computer, because they'd found that if they did that, it literally would cause a big problem with the computer and they might not get it working. But now I know the approach is usually, if your computer isn't working, completely close it down, switch it off, and then it is more likely to reboot and start up again. And
literally sometimes cutting the whole electric off at the socket. Sometimes you have to go that far.
Oh, yeah.
Get a machine to reboot. It's not even just pressing the off button.
And it's not just do it briefly. You need to leave it off for at least 10, 15, no, minutes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, 10, 15 minutes or so, leave it off, and then it will quite often restart completely fine. And it's like, well, but I know that even the internet stuff and the computer stuff is God-given. And it used to send me to bed. When I was doing my second degree, I'd be staying up till ridiculous times, trying to get my assignments done and things. And then the computer would stop working properly. So I'm like, I then, after a few times of it happening, I'm like, oh, okay, that's telling me to go to bed. And so I would literally switch it all off, go to bed, get up next morning, and it would work. And it's like, that was God telling me, go to bed, Julie, and do other stuff. And this is what we need to do enough. So I've just been listening to some thing with Joe Dispenza and Brian Lipton and people like that. And it was saying, one of them was saying that he was literally, when he was getting stressed, he'd suddenly started the approach of, right, no, let's focus on something happy and positive and do something else. And then he felt better. And then he came back to what he was doing. He was in a better frame to do it. And then it flowed much easier. And then it had come that, he'd start to feel stress again. And then he'd have to just switch off and everything. So
a choice, isn't it? People don't realize it's actually a choice to feel that way.
But quite often we're so sort of thinking we've got to do the perfectionist stuff and we've got to, do what mainstream's telling us. But we know as a community that actually we need to follow our inspirations instead. So welcome, Roger. Good to see you here.
Yeah, you just had a technical problem this morning.
Well, in God terms, from what I've just said, that was saying Roger needed to arrive slightly later. So, Roger, we've just introduced and said, anything that we're wanting to discuss or bring to the fore for people. So what would you like to share with us now, Roger? And I know you've got some things that you're definitely hoping we'll discuss in the next 35 minutes.
Yes, well, I'm thinking in terms of forming a shadow cabinet. And I think that will give us more credibility for the election. But not only that, we will be prepared for it. Because I think we're, I know this may sound a bit over the top, but I think we're living in such bad times here. We're going to have an emergency situation. We'll have an emergency situation where we'll need to have people around to organise society. That's my opinion. I mean, if you look around now, you know what experiences you're having. You'll find that the police are totally all at sea, and there are so many people disorganized these days because of what's happened over the last 4 years. So somebody's got to be there to reorganize things.
Yes, and so that is a good suggestion because it'll feel like another positive step. Now, we've also been talking, Roger, about the regional mayors that are starting to come up. And
Well, this is a bad thing, isn't it?
pardon?
I say that's a bad thing.
Well, it's not a bad thing if we've got a candidate to put forwards in each region of the country where they're coming, and this is what we need people to do. So within our love movement, we need people to start to say, oh yes, I know there's this, you know, like I, Lynn and Rachel know that we've got the East Midlands mayor coming up, and Alan is in that area at the moment, but he's moving. So hopefully when he's moved, he'll find out the naming of the regional mayor that be where he's going to be living. And so what do you know of the regional mayor where you're based?
Well, there isn't one established here yet, but there's going to be one.
Yeah, but none of these have been established yet, and that's the whole point. So do you know the name? Like ours is called East Midlands Mayor. What's yours going to be called?
No, I don't know.
Right, well, if you could research into that, because the Conservatives and the Labour will have already put forward somebody, which has definitely happened in the East Midlands region, and they've had that in local media, in local newspapers and things that I've seen. So if you could look into that, that would be really helpful, and then we can start to share that on the beacons and see which of the candidates we've got in that area, the beacons that are going to actually put themselves forwards for that.
So these people are actually called regional mayors.
Yes, yeah, the regional mayors, and it's a new post that they're bringing up. I'm just going to go to Lynn because she just put her hand up and thinks she's going to contribute to this discussion.
Well, let me just say, I think this is very important that we do, as you say.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
First thing is, I don't see how my Zoom seems to have changed. There is now an AI companion, and under reactions, there doesn't seem to be an option to put your hand up, which is a bit of, I'm trying to find how to do that now. If anyone can have a look and see if that's possible.
When I clicked on the arrow next to reactions, it says play chime for raised hands.
It didn't it? Yes.
Recognize hand gestures.
How have you done yours, Rachel?
Yeah, it's just in reactions. I've still got reactions. There is an AI companion. God knows what that does.
Oh, there we go. Yes, you're right. There is, but it's I pressed the arrow, which used to work for raise hand, and now I've got to actually press the face to get raise hand. Got it. Right.
But just to say, there is the mayor is York and North Yorkshire. It's a £540 million devolution deal, and they will take office in 2024 as part of a levelling up agenda to return of powers from Westminster. And they will receive £540 million of government investment over 30 years. And this was announced in 2022.
And have you got a list of the other regional mayors there? Or is that just that one?
I just Googled this. So basically it's York and North Yorkshire. So I'm imagining it would be about the same time as the East Midlands. And you did mention that you thought Jonathan Tilt would be standing for this, Lynn.
Yeah, he's definitely said that he's doing that. That's
it says it's the first of 13 devolution negotiations named in February's Levelling Up White Paper, which details plans for creating better opportunities outside the southeast of England. So it may not apply to the southeast.
Well, hopefully when Alan moves, he'll be able to look at that and see. Yes, Alan.
I'm just looking on Wikipedia's page. It says proposed mayoralities and leaderships, and then it lists East Midlands, Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire, Norfolk County Council, North East Mayoral Combined Authority, Suffolk County Council, York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority. So there's no mention of the Sussex or South East Council proposals, Cornwall Council, and then it lists former mayoralities. So you'll find that on the Wikipedia page, directly elected mayors in England. It looks to be fairly up to date.
Really helpful, because I know in the past, past few months, I have literally tried to find it and couldn't find it. So it's interesting that you've managed to. Right, thank you for that. Yeah, Lynn, what would you like to say?
So yes, I may be able to do Lincolnshire. I've got a property over there that I'm renovating, so I don't know yet. I'll have a look. Then the other thing was, Roger, that I think your shadow cabinet thing might be valuable as a focus. Can I just say that if the shit does hit the fan and we have an emergency situation, it's not going to be that people are going to wander around wondering what to do, and sort of go, ooh, wander around the streets. People will organise their own communities. Trade will carry on. Trade doesn't stop just because the currency's crashed. People trade in other ways. So a lot of things will just carry on, and some things will naturally just go back to the communities, is in my opinion. I'm not sure there'll be the level of organising needed that you're anticipating. We won't necessarily need someone managing tax or managing the judiciary. Perhaps we'll just take it back to local and be able to do it ourselves.
Yeah,
so it's a scenario that might happen, but I'm not saying don't prepare, but it's a scenario that we may not ever need, because
I think it's a good focus for us to get our shadow cabinet together and as an energy, as long as we've got enough time as well to be properly in our local communities. And I know what's happening locally with me. People are certainly starting to connect together as that local community, and know what they need and what they want. And people like me, for some reason, I get more noticed, and hopefully I'm getting something sorted to actually get some heating fixed in the local community centre. So there's lots of things that can be happening. And as Roger was saying, if we can get this shadow cabinet in place, then we can perhaps have a focus, and it might even help us to get more beacons into our beacon sort of Telegram group to share ideas and things like that as we move forwards. So I see it as a real positive thing, Roger.
Good point, Julie. I do get you. Just can we slim it down? Can we? The cabinet at the moment is ridiculous, and a lot of the governing is done by these flipping non-governmental organisations. There's a lot of power gone to places that are not government, are not elected, not accountable. I'm thinking things like English Heritage, which probably was very virtuous when it started off and is now a complete pain in the bum.
Look, we're starting to break the mold with this, aren't we? And what we need is a core few people that are there for the shadow cabinet. And then
12. I like 12.
yeah. But also, we don't need to overthink it and don't over comply with what is in place already. We know when we were trying to do the getting recognised as a political party, that they got hoops in place that they didn't even tell us about, and then they kept putting more hoops in place. So we don't need to even jump their hoops. What we need is a new approach. So our cabinet will just be our cabinet, and we also know that it's only that we are there to support everybody else and empower them. In that we're not having power over them, we are there for them. Okay.
Yeah.
So
right, Rachel, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I mean, Lynn just kind of said it, which is when I looked at the list which Roger had raised this, and then I hadn't actually looked to see who's in the cabinet, but it's incredible. It's like, I don't know, almost 30 people sit around the cabinet table, and all of these crazy departments. So it's not so much about a shadow cabinet as exactly as you said, a bit like the guy in Argentina has done, is to completely radically revision what those departments would be. And it's not about having, to me, it's not about having a minister, a single minister in charge. It's about having a team. And the same way that we have envisaged when, I won't say if, I'll say when the Love movement, all of these independent candidates are voted in 2024, that actually it won't be one prime minister, it will be a group, it will be a collection of people. And I do feel that this presidential king or queen of this old paradigm where you have one person, and same with the mayors, really, it's a similar presidential thing that they're trying to go down, creating one personality who calls all the shots. And that's not really the future that is conducive to, you want really a tribal kind of approach where you've got a whole group of people who collectively co-create in specialist areas where they're really passionate and knowledgeable about.
Yeah, this hierarchical pyramid structure is very much the old paradigm.
Yes, exactly. So circles. Moving to circles. So who would your circle be if you had a really, really rich group of very passionate and experienced people in, say, education, and if they sat in a circle and really visioned, okay, what is the most inspiring way, not just to educate children, but everyone in society?
Yeah. This is where, when you say rich, you don't mean rich in finances, you mean rich in emotional intelligence people.
Yes,
don't you?
exactly.
Yeah. So that fits in very well synchronistically with something that I put out this morning, that what we don't need is politicians being in charge of education, healthcare, social care. What we need is the experts, the professionals in those areas to be the people that are in charge, but also genuinely connecting with the people. Now, I know through the different groups I've been part of over years and years and years, I've always been quite a community-based leader, only informally most of the time, but it's amazing how some people need someone to sort of take that role, not to be dictatorial, but just so that they can know that they feel empowered enough to do what they're doing. And they might even just come to me and say, well, Julie, what do you think to this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. So people that are in this new cabinet that we've got, this new even if we call it that, could we think of a different name? But
cabinet, yes, it's very
square. And
yes.
Well, my shadow love
cabinet.
My shadow love cabinet has got those doors open, we're not closed, and we are just, helping and supporting everybody that can access us.
More of a bookshelf, really.
Yeah.
I do think we should choose a different name, because it's a ridiculous name anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's French for cupboard. We don't want to be in a bloody cupboard, do we?
No, so what we can do on the Beacons group, or anyone watching this, they can give us some ideas of what we can actually call ourselves. And it's a bit like, I mean, I do love the sort of party in life, but also this movement that we talk about now is easier in other ways, because we are flexible and we're moving, aren't we? Okay, so that's another thing. So at least then we're not just going into that stereotypical shadow cabinet thing. And
more of a trolley than a cabinet then.
Yeah, we can be a definite, yes. That's an interesting terminology as well. Thank you, Alan, for putting the Wikipedia directly elected mayors in England. So I don't know if there's anything happening in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. So hopefully people will start to look at that as well.
That's local democracy, isn't it? They've got their own assemblies who will presumably decide that for themselves.
Yeah.
I know we can probably maybe we can use this for an advantage. I don't know. The idea is very WEFI that they have power over the regions at a local level, because I mean, let's face it, the MPs are getting more and more irrelevant because they just don't have, and they're able to blame everybody else. Oh, it's the corporations. Oh, it's the local councils, oh, it's this. So deliberately, the power has been taken away from the MPs over a long time. So the people who you actually vote for have very little, except a stage role, really. And it's going, and you know, the mayor is a very convenient way for the Weffies, as we've seen with Sadiq Khan, to control a local area, quite a big local area. I mean, they're big. It's a big enough area that you don't actually know the person and you don't have a direct connection with them, but small enough to be easily controlled by Weffies. So yeah, it's, I can see what they're trying to do,
bringing this
and use it.
Yeah, we're bringing this whole system down, aren't we?
Yeah, we can use it though. We can use it to our advantage if we can be the local person and just break that pattern. You know, we're not. Yeah, you wanted your people in, you know, your Weffie types in place. Your I can't remember who they are. Your Sadiq Khans and people like that. And instead, you've got us.
Yeah. So Alan's put a comment in the chat about he's experienced generally very good relationships with police. And I would say in my childhood and teenage years, the police were part of the community and everybody knew each other. And, you know, the local doctor, I didn't even call him a GP then, the local doctor used to know all the families and everyone. And Mum always tells me that apparently our local doctor used to call around occasionally when he knew that there was some health stuff happening in our family, and totally unannounced, and he just came to see how we were doing. And I know they used to go, you know, in the local pubs and they might be sharing stuff to do with what was happening with people. But now these days we've got such confined confidentiality that everybody thinks that nobody else is going through the health issues, the significant traumas and stuff like that in life. And it's not actually a helpful way. Yes, we don't need people being disrespectful talking about things, but actually if you knew that a family needed some support, then you could subtly go and give that support. And I know that's what I've done. I can remember years ago, one of my friends, she had a brother committed suicide because of his PhD, and he felt as though he was letting his fellow students down. He hadn't done enough work. And she also had another brother who was killed in a motorbike accident, and he literally ended up in a phone box. A lot of people kept away from them, supposedly, I don't know why, letting them grieve or whatever. I went round and just to see what support they wanted and needed. And I know they really appreciated that. And it is that being able to do it in subtle ways, that you're there to support people enough without being intrusive. And even if it's just to have a hug and have a cry together or something. And then right now, how can we help ourselves to move forwards with this? And this is what's not being properly allowed in our communities at all. And I'm so glad that I'm connecting with these two local communities that I do, because now I'm getting to know more of their lived experiences. So I've recently emailed the council trying to get some heating in one community centre, and that still hasn't happened properly at all. And I've said to them, I can't believe that you've left it until cold times to not sort the heating out in that community centre, when it's people, food club and all that sort of thing, that they can't afford to heat at home. So the one place they need to go is the community centre to actually get some warmth. And then the other community, they were asking for some light so that the children can come home from school, having been cooped up all day, bums on seats and all that lot, and not even having proper outside time. They want to be able to get changed and then go on the local children's play park. I've been told that they can't have proper lighting on there because it's potential for antisocial behaviour. And they know as a community, actually, there's more antisocial behaviour on there because the people that are on there can't be seen. But also we haven't got a local youth club and things. And so we need to keep voicing on things like this. But if I wasn't going to that local group, I wouldn't know their everyday lived experiences. And I'm so glad that I'm getting to know them and starting to voice on their behalf. Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. I was going to say something else, but just on that point you just raised, it is true, like my sons, they quite often go down the local park, and this is even now in this weather, because there is no place indoor to go, so they go and hang out in the park, or they go and hang out in the Wicky Woods. And yeah, so it is a potential for antisocial behavior because they lark about, and Yeah, so it's not the most ideal thing when there could be a sort of YMCA, or in my youth, we used to go down the YMCA actually. Anyway, that's another point. Going back to what Roger said about this alternative, this shadow cabinet, and this idea for creating departments, new departments. I would like to propose one. This is from my personal area, and it may be that we each have a personal area that we feel really passionate about. But personally, instead of this, the whole sort of trade and industry and all of the financial, you know, it used to be called the Department of Trade and Industry, didn't it? The DTI, and then the business and innovation services or whatever. To me, that it would be really good to have I won't even call it a department, because I think that's not the wrong word, but a body which is all about prosperity and abundance in its widest sense, and that is very much in our opportunity, the O of the opportunity, which teaches and encourages and supports and creates the setting for every single person to be able to be creative, to be enterprising, to be in flow, whether it's growing vegetables through to creating whatever they want to create, to basic enterprise skills, so that no one has to feel that the only route is to get a job. And I've got to go to and work in an Amazon warehouse, and that's the only way I can possibly make any money, kind of thing. So I think that is a big area of this prosperity and abundance, and using that word because there's so much mind training around scarcity. There's not enough, and everything's limited. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. There's not enough resources. There's not enough. There's not enough. Natural resources on the planet, and all of that is a mind control which has been put in place to support the concept of capitalism, because when you return to nature, you realize that there is only abundance in nature. There's nothing, it's all abundant. And so, yeah, I feel very passionate about this, some kind of department, and let's think of a better word, of prosperity and abundance for all beings. So
Right.
that's my little starter for 10.
Thank you, Rachel.
I would like a vitality department.
Yay!
I would also like a learning and information department, and so that's pretty much comes under empowerment. I think getting people to be able to, know and be able to find out what they don't know, and But
and that's the sort of things I was talking with the local community this morning on, how we need to be teaching children from being nursery age about basic recovery position, what to do when fire's happening, to be able to roll on the floor and all things like that. That should be part of the basics of education, and actually need to be out in the community rather than just stuck in schools. And there was some other stuff that Rachel said that I was going to respond to, but I've forgotten what it is now. But it's really that case of, we don't need this hierarchy. We need to empower every person and help them to start to properly realise and get them out of these prison-like schools. So yes, now Roger, you wanted to say something.
Well, in the past, the king relied on a group called a Witan, W-I-T-A-N, and the Witan was basically the king's government. Maybe we could go back to these old expressions, which are meaningful.
Well,
and
we're not giving the king any more power than
no.
But just that's what he had,
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that we have a king. He's got to go. The king has got to go. Is a total lack of use, and is an obstacle to democracy.
Yeah. And thank you, Alan, as well. You've put some information in the chat about the Scotland and their approach. So they're not actually having a new sort of mayor type system. They've chosen to reform local government by introducing the single transferable vote electoral system. So let's hope that's a good thing that they're doing. And it talks about the Scottish Conservatives support elected mayors where there is where there is found to be local demand in our major towns and cities. A mayor in Scotland is traditionally known as a provost, I presume is how we say that. There's no directly elected mayors in Northern Ireland. Officers of mayors in Northern Ireland are only a ceremonial position. And it's interesting to experience locally how our mayor has got this sort of executive mayor position, but they really do just seem puppets of the whole system. So they're not really there to speak for the people as such. And that's the shame of what we're faced with. So when we think about developing this open shelves trolley system that's very flexible of a shadow cabinet, we can start to look at the different roles that we can take. And I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've got healthcare training as well as education training, and I've done various things in social care as well. So, and I'm passionate about all of that. And to me, we don't need to separate them off too much. And going back to the discussion about police and NHS staff, I know quite often they are doing what they feel they're needing to do in the role that they've got. But what we need to help them to realise is that they need to be there for the people, not just as part of the system. And that the system is actually making a lot of them very stressed. And so they can't actually realise that what they're doing is adverse for local people. We need to stop judging people. And there's more people addicted to drugs through pharmaceuticals than there is to do with any adversity caused by recreational drugs. And I've done significant training in that, and I've worked with people with this. And once people start to hopefully realise this, the NHS staff can get on board and realise that we're here as that flexible trolley approach to, right, we're coming here today, what is needed here? Let's empower those certain individuals so that they can be leading their local community, and they know that they can come to us to bring that flexible trolley back in as and when it's needed, but not to have it stuck somewhere that is an eyesore or getting in the way or whatever. We need to really work with those local communities.
Can we not be a trolley dolly? Can we just I mean, Roger wants to talk, and that's great. I think I'd love to hear what he says, but just to get away from the trolley dolly. Just round table. Can we do a round table?
Yeah, I mean, round table I'm absolutely fine with, but also that just tells you mainstream what has been impregnated into us, even about thinking of us being off our trolley or whatever. You know, and it is. And I mean, I say to people, weird is wonderful, and we're all crazy to some extent. So why do we need to judge anyone for what anyone's saying? And we need to get in the light side of any of all this, don't we? So, right. Anything else that you want to say, Roger?
Well, not really, because I'd said all I had to say before.
Right.
No, I just left my hand up because I wanted to introduce the term Witan. I don't know whether we could use that or not. We've got to have a name.
Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah, after we get off this conversation, can't we? And see.
Yeah, we just need to have a name which is more reflective or representative of what we're doing.
And hopefully
it's not cabinet.
Yeah, hopefully we can have this sort of discussion through the Beacons group on the Telegram, and then we'll be able to bring it to a future meeting so that we can put it out there and see what other people think. I love having deep discussions with people, and sometimes I can disagree with some things that they suggest at first, and then I'll go away and think about it, and I think, oh, actually, they've really got a point there, and I've totally changed my thinking. And this is what we haven't been allowed, particularly for the last 4 years, as communities and as a society. And this is what we want to bring back, so that we can have these proper, healthy discussions and perhaps agree to disagree. And we might even get a little bit heated sometimes, but it's because we're passionate. And that's where we all are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here at all, would we? Rachel, you want to say something?
Yes, I did just have a little peek into the Anglo-Saxon origins of the words witan and moot. And the witans were basically the noblemen and the king's men, and the moots were the local people. And so the witans became the House of Lords, and the moots became the House of Commons, and that is the roots of the current parliamentary system. So witan is actually the collection of noblemen, like the aristocrats, which is essentially the House of Lords. So I personally, I feel like these old terms probably are not helpful, and that we would maybe create some visionary spellings, should we say, which encapsulate what we want to co-create in the essence of love and community and a more circular structure.
And isn't it amazing how our society has managed to demonize even the term love and the rainbow and things like that? And this is where we need to get back to the light side of all of this, and help people to realize the positive aspects of all those. And okay, they've demonized them at the moment, but we can bring the light back into it. So Roger, you wanted to say something?
Well, what I just following on really what Rachel just said, we can create our own words, can't we? Because I mean, Shakespeare did.
Yeah. We all can create our own words.
So let's create our own words.
Words in dictionaries are only man contrived, and dictionary evolves. So let's come up with a wonderful word for our approach with this, and then we can get that in a future dictionary, and we can all vision that being in the future dictionary, of really being there, not muting the people, which has taken on a different concept by but we can bring our own wording in there and get it into the light side of it and get that out into community. Right, we have 2 minutes left until 2 o'clock. So has anyone got anything else that they want to say before we...
Well, I just want to raise the point of voting. And this has been something that Rachel has raised as an adverse contingent, and that's majority. We've got to get rid of majority voting, because that just disables a minority of people. So can we think in terms of something else? I mean,
well, have you connected with the Make Votes Matter people at all? Because when I went to the recent talk about that and proportional representation and things like that, that was really insightful. So if we can connect with people like them, because we in the United Kingdom are the only one of 2 countries that has the first past the post approach. And when he went through all the information, can't remember his name, David Gallagher, I think his name is, when he went through all the different happenings through voting for decades, and the lack of the minority people being represented in Parliament. And I mean, my big vision is that we're going to have Parliament closed in a political way. It's just going to be a tourist attraction. And actually what we'll have is actors and actresses in there showing us the bizarreness of what we've been experiencing, that is only acting anyway, because we know they've already made those decisions. And then people in the future will be like, how on earth could they have behaved like that and got away with it? So that is my vision. So anything else anyone wants to say before we finish?
Can I just ask, are we okay to put this out widely to the whole public? This, because it feels like a nice, lively debate.
Yeah, definitely. But so what we need to know is which, if you're having a department, what departments are they going to be? Because they're going to be much more inclusive and much less isolated and sectioned off and than currently happens. What's the whole format going to be? Is it going to be a round table type thing? What's the name of it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the round table concept is a wonderful one. And as we've mentioned earlier, even the thing of department, but then I just imagined a department store where you sort of go in and everybody's allowed on the different floors and to just sort of go around, and sometimes you might have healthcare and education hopefully on the same floor as well. So we're going to educate for life, and we're going to completely change the approach that we've got at the moment. So yeah, and I'm happy for this to go out.
Cool.
Yeah.
The word that's springing into my mind is embrace. Like you have a brace of pheasants, like an embrace of people who are into healthcare, for example, or an embrace of people who are into education, or an embrace of people who are into prosperity and abundance. They're just a little word that pops into my mind, but just this idea of embracing people embracing a whole area of society in a kind of loving embrace, you know.
So Alan's put a suggestion of a sphere is more infinitely dimensioned than a round table.
Oh,
Yes.
And yes, that is, because then we can be much more holographic, can't we, with it all? And that's where we need to be.
Yeah, I'll take round table is a bit too flat earth, isn't it? We need
It's a bit, yeah.
a hug. I love that, a hug.
A hug.
But isn't round table affiliated to things like the Masons and the Rotary Club?
King Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not a good idea. It's got evil connotations.
I think we can be spherical, but also we need to start
Yeah.
to emphasize the light side of even any of those terms. And I know Alan's also mentioned some things to do with neuro-linguistic programming and how we experience life as a mirror of our beliefs and assumptions and things like that. And this is what, as we start to help to get these messages out to people, and they start to realize what they're thinking and what they do with total unconscious beliefs in place that they don't even realize they've got, these are what we can transform. And in that spherical approach to our holographic lives that nobody understands, and once we realize nobody understands, the only expert in your life is yourself. And most of us aren't actually very expert in knowing ourselves. As we get to know our authentic selves and really respect ourselves and respect each other, that is where we are going, and that is what we're going to keep role modeling and keep promoting, knowing when to be quiet sometimes, but also knowing when to positively assert with it. Okay, so if we could just finish the recording there for now, Rachel, thank you.